Make yourself comfortable and let your imagination soar. Now, I'll let you know what the folks climbing the tower will see, and I'll also give you some information they won't get so you can regale them with your knowledge later on. Your first virtual stop up the 219-step climb will be the window at the first landing. This is the first time the ocean is visible from the lighthouse. Today, the coast looks considerably different than it did in 1870. The coastline of St. Augustine is constantly changing, and shifting sandbars pose one of the primary challenges of navigating these waters. In fact, the vast majority of the ships that required help or rescue from the keepers had run aground on these shifting sandbars. The very first Spanish watchtower, built in 1586, was located about a half-mile in front of the site of this tower. That first tower, a 35-foot wooden signal station placed at the northeastern end of Anastasia Island, was manned by a Spanish soldier to act as an alert system for the town of St. Augustine. On May 8, 1586, the tower did in fact warn the population of the arrival of Sir Francis Drake, the famous English privateer. Unfortunately, it also led him right to them. The tower and its garrison could do little to prevent Drake from pillaging and burning the town to the ground. So much for English manners. The shifting sandbars have been the cause of many a shipwreck, and evidence of these wrecks is still being found today by our maritime archaeologists. Perhaps the most significant is the British sloop Industry, which sank in 1764. Artifacts from the ship are on display inside the keeper's house. Maybe the most famous of the undiscovered shipwrecks of St. Augustine is that of the Confederate privateer brig Jeff Davis, which ran aground on a sandbar and sank in August of 1861. Though the ship and its guns were lost, her crew made it safely ashore and enjoyed a hero's welcome in the city of St. Augustine. If you wish to hear a newspaper report on the sinking of the Jeff Davis from an 1861 issue of the Charleston, South Carolina Mercury, you will be able to do so at the end of this virtual climb. Now let's continue our virtual journey up the stairs towards the top of the tower. Imagine you've reached the second landing. Towards the west is the city of St. Augustine, on the far side of the Matanzas River. Here's an interesting, if bloody, bit of information about the river the tower climbers won't be hearing. The word Matanzas means massacre in Spanish, and the river is so named because a group of French Huguenots were massacred by Spanish soldiers near what is now Matanzas Inlet in 1765. Don't you feel smarter already? There is a large white building on the far shore. It's the Florida National Guard building, which was actually built by the British during the French and Indian War. This era was known as the British period in St. Augustine. Florida had been ceded to Great Britain by Spain in exchange for Cuba in 1763 and would remain in British hands until 1784, when it returned to Spanish control and remained so until becoming an American territory in 1821. From its founding in 1565, 42 years before the settling of the Jamestown colony in Virginia, and 55 years before the Pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock, St. Augustine has long been a site of conflict and struggle. How did all this back and forth and changing of hands shape the city and the surrounding area? Well, let's just say the city of St. Augustine has earned a much-deserved reputation as a melting pot, a city of great diversity. Native Americans, Minorcan Spanish, British, Africans, Italians, Greeks, and countless other cultures have contributed to the population of the oldest port city in America. Let's continue on. Now close your eyes and imagine you're at the top of the St. Augustine Lighthouse. The wind is blowing, birds fly from the trees below, and the view, well, it appears endless. East from the tower, toward the ocean, is a long pier. At low tide, you can see flat rocks that were the foundation of the old Spanish watchtower, which stood proudly from April 1824 until being claimed by the sea during a storm in August of 1880. If you imagine now moving clockwise around the lighthouse to the south, most of what you see is Anastasia Island, which extends all the way to another old Spanish watchtower named Fort Matanzas. Continuing clockwise, to the west is the city of St. Augustine. From the tower you could see the red roof of the Hotel Henry Flagler built in 1888. leading to St. Augustine's period of great tourism, which continues today. Here's another interesting tidbit for non-climbers only. Henry Flagler's Hotel Ponce de Leon was the first large-scale building constructed entirely of poured concrete. Flagler also hired Louis Comfort Tiffany, the renowned stained glass artist, to decorate his impressive hotel. It is now a part of Flagler College. I hope you've enjoyed your virtual climb to the top of the St. Augustine Lighthouse. To hear a newspaper account of the Jeff Davis from an 1861 issue of the Charleston, South Carolina Mercury, press the green button.